Good evening, everyone. Tonight we're here to tie some flies. Got a plethora of hooks here that we're going to use, which I recently covered. The Gamakatsu octopus hooks. So I'm excited about that. But we're going to do some simple egg patterns. And yeah, unless anyone has questions, I'm just going to go into it, kind of explain everything I'm doing, and go from there. So first, let's tie some size 4s. I'm going to do some in black and some in red as well. I'm going to go over some quick tools that we have here for this. 1 second here. There we go. So we got some quick tools that I'm going to show on the screen here. First, we obviously got our tying vise right here. And next on the list, we got a bobbin. Here's our bobbin. I have UTC Ultra Thread 140 denier on right now. This could vary, but I like the UTC brand. It's pretty strong and it's resistant to getting cut frequently. So that's what I'm going to use. Next on our tool list, we got scissors for cutting the fly materials, which are just your small scissors here. And then we have just like a standard pair of house scissors, household scissors here that we'll use to cut the thicker material because we don't want to break our small ones. So next on the list is our whip finish tool, which is used to tie the knot at the end. If anyone's familiar with how to use it, it's a pretty simple tool to use, and it's very effective in tying your knots at the end of the session of your fly that you're on. And we have the bodkin. It's gonna come in handy later. And finally, some glue of your choice. So I'm using head cement, but you can use just about anything that you want to use will work for this. So those are the tools we're using tonight. Next, I'll go over the materials we're going to use for the flies we're tying, which should pop up on the screen here in a second. Here we go. So first, like I said, we got a bunch of different Gamakatsu octopus hooks. My favorite hook for salmon season. I have a video on that. Check out the channel if you haven't seen it already. I go over in depth why I like these hooks, and the biggest thing is just how easily available they are, and how affordable they are. So that's the biggest reason why we do it. But next we got the UTC Ultra Thread that I showed earlier, and I got it in 140 denier. 70 will also work for these, but 140 I just think it keeps it just a little more durable for these huge salmon that we're fishing with. Glow bug yarn. So I got a couple different brands of this. I have the actual glow bug company here, which is great. And then I just got this generic UV enhanced glow bug yarn as well. Both of these will work great. And then I had some micro glow bug yarn in pink as well. These are all UV plus, which it's debatable if it actually works or not, but I'm a fan of it, so we're gonna use it. I got some bead heads as well. I'm just using gold tungsten bead heads, which help the fly sink down a little bit if needed. I'm not going to tie all with gold or with bead heads, but I will tie some. Lead-free wire, that is also to help with the weight. So I got 0.020 lead-free wire, and like I said, I'm not going to use that either for all of them, but some of them I will use that for. And silly legs, which is kind of crazy, but bear with me. It's just like one of those toys that I ripped the stuffing out, and we're actually going to use these legs here for our fly. Bear with me, like I said, bear with me with that one. It's pretty crazy, but it turns out really good. It's a nice looking fly, and I've caught fish on it, so I know that it works. But now we got the materials out of the way. Let's get into tying some flies. If anyone has any questions, please leave a comment in the chat. If you do have questions, you're going to need to be signed into a YouTube account. So if you don't have one, just quickly create one with an email, and then you'll be able to comment. If not, get at me on Facebook, and I can answer any questions later. I just won't be able to do it live. All right, so let's get a better look at the tying vise here. Make things a little easier. All right, so we got the tying vise a little larger now to kind of help see where we're at. First thing I'm doing here is just getting a hook. Like I said, we're using Gamakatsu octopus hooks, widely available at pretty much any store that sells hooks. So Walmart, I got these at Dick's Sporting Goods. Really sturdy and reliable hook. And yeah, great for salmon season. It's got a perfect salmon egg shape for a hook, which is another good reason why I like to use them. Let me adjust this camera just a bit. There we go. So here we go. We got our hook. Next, we're just going to grab our bobbin and do a jam knot here to get started, about 1 eye width away from the eye. We're just going to do a couple wraps and then snip that tag end free and drop it in our little trash dispenser here. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab some of our glow bug yarn. We're going to need about 1.5 inches, 2 inches to do this first part. We're going to use our household scissors because this stuff's pretty thick. You don't want to damage your small scissors for this. We're going to grab that and put it aside for a second. Then we're going to grab the same distance in our micro yarn and snip off a little bit of that. We're going to lay our micro yarn on top of our glow bug yarn there, and we're going to simply just wrap that around the thread here, fold it in half right over top of the middle of it. Do a wrap around the shank of the hook there. I'd like to go 2 wraps, lift this straight up, and then tighten this down right on top of the hook there. Do a couple wraps in front and behind. And I realized that my camera's drifting a little bit too low there. So there we go, now we're centered on it. So now that we have it secured on there, we're just going to make some wraps, like I said, in front, behind our clump of glow bug yarn, and then a few wraps around the entire base of the glow bug yarn, if you can see that. I'm making like 2 wraps around and then saving the work by going around the shank of the hook. Then I'll do a couple figure eights around it and do the same thing. Go around the materials, not the hook, and then save our work by going around the hook. You're going to want to do this a couple times just to get it really cinched down there. When you feel like it's not going to go anywhere, you can go ahead and get up to where you started tying the jam knot, and then we're going to get our whip finish tool, because this fly is just about done. For anyone not familiar with a whip finish tool, so it's a little intimidating at first, but if you have other means to tie, that's great, but this tool, it makes it so easy. So you're just going to put this first part here, the first triangle, in the thread, and you're going to wrap around this. You're going to fold it over to make a triangle, and then you're just going to put that tip of the triangle on the shank of the hook and do a couple wraps. I'm going to do 6 wraps here or so, and pull that out, pull it tight. Then I'm going to do that again just to be sure. You can't be too secure with these. So the reasoning for the pink micro yarn and the orange thread is to kind of imitate a hot spot, right? Or like others would say, the yolk of a salmon egg. And you'll see that here in a little bit after I cut this. So now we got our material just sitting here. Obviously this isn't our fly, it's not done yet. We're going to grab our household scissors. We're going to pull up on everything. I like to make it nice and uniform, make sure everything's in place. And then I'm going to snip. I'm going to go up about the same width as the hook gap here. And I'm just going to cut straight across here, making sure to get all the material and try to be as even as possible. Sharp scissors help, which I don't have right now. Now our fly's starting to form a little bit better here, but I'm going to push and form this into more of a spherical shape rather than a half sphere that it was when we first cut it there. So now we're inspecting the fly, making sure it's good. This end here could actually use a little trim. And I don't like doing trims afterwards, but if it looks wonky enough, I will do it, just because you're trying to present these flies to fish that don't even eat in spawn. If anything, they just try to get it out of their face, or out of pure aggression. Or there are even some that believe that they will put it in their mouth to put it back in their nest because they think it's theirs. But that's our first fly. It's done. We're going to throw it in our case here, and then we're going to tie a different variation of the same thing. I'll put the material list up on the screen here again, just in case anyone needs that. But once again, as a reminder, please drop a comment if you have any questions, whether it's in regards to tying these flies or fishing in general, or just anything, just to say hi. Just leave a comment and let me know. And I got it pulled up on my screen here, and I'll see that and be able to answer any questions you may have. So we got our first one done. Once again, these are size 4 Gamakatsu octopus hooks. I like to tie in sizes 4 through 8 with these. But the first couple here, just for me to get warmed up, I'm going to go with a little bigger size. So on the bigger side of that spectrum, I'm going to do that. All right, this time I'm going to use one of these beads and do one of them this way. So like I like to have a variety of sizes, colors, and variations, such as beads or having a tail on, which I'll go over next. I just like to have different options because, you know, these fish can be picky, very picky. And the best part about these are all these that I'm going over work with steelhead and brown trout too. So what I did here was I just fished the bead through the hook and brought it around. If you have beads that have one hole that's larger than the other, the smaller hole is the one you're going to go through. And that'll go towards the eye of your hook up front here. Next, I'm just going to grab a little bit of lead-free wire, 0.020 lead-free round wire. And I'm going to get about an inch of that. I'm going to twist it, and it's going to break right off. With that, I'm just going to make a couple overhand wraps on the shank of the hook. Just like this. And then I'm going to pinch those wraps together like that. I'm going to make sure that the two ends aren't sticking up. I want it to be as close to the shank of the hook as possible. So what I'm going to do is slide it up right next to the bead, and if possible, preferably right into the larger slot of that bead, just like that. So now we're going to get our bobbin back on. We're going to go right on the other side of our wire and do another jam knot before snipping off here. Discarding that. This stuff can be pretty messy. If you've ever tied flies before, you know that this stuff can get messy real quick. So it's nice to have a little discard bin. I've got this little thing right here that I just throw all my scraps in while I'm tying, and then throw it away at the end of the night. But we're just gonna make a couple wraps here. Cover our wire completely and go all the way up to the bead. Like I said, this bead and wire is going to really help this sink down to the bottom. The Salmon River in Pulaski is, Pulaski, sorry, for any locals, I apologize. I just moved here within the year, or a year and a half ago, so bear with me. But the water flow there, so if you've ever waded in the Salmon River, the water flow is intense. It may not look like it's moving fast, but that current underneath is roaring. So it's just really important to get these flies on the bottom, because that's where the fish are holding, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to sink it down to the bottom. But now, essentially, we're just repeating the same process. We're getting 1.5 inches of glow bug yarn in whatever color you want. This color here, what is it actually called? This there's no name on the. Okay, Oregon cheese. Oregon cheese is the color on this one, and it's just like a pale yellow orange-ish color, and it is my favorite color to use, even before I moved up here in New York. Pennsylvania fisheries, this was a good color. Lake Erie, good for that. So we cut 1.5 inches off. Then we're going to cut 1.5 inches off of the micro yarn. And the color on that is cotton candy. Really, any contrasting color to your main color will work here. That is going to represent the yolk of a salmon egg, or the hot spot, the blood spot. So we're going to wrap this around our tying vise, or our thread, and pinch it in the middle of it. We're going to make a single wrap around the shank of the hook, lift it up to vertical, and pull it straight down. Give it a little tug up there, and then do a couple figure 8 wraps around each side of the material. After that, we're going to do a couple side wraps around just the material, not the shank of the hook. So I'm going to do 2 there, and then save our work by going back to figure 8s. So it's important not to pinch any of the material with your thread here. So it's maybe easier to grab the thread a little bit, or the material, lift it up while you're going around, and go like this. So the purpose of this UTC denier or 140 denier thread that we have in orange is to also emulate that hotspot. So the fish could see this through the material here. So I got the pink, the cotton candy colored micro bling, and I got the orange thread underneath as well, which is strong. Grabbing our whip finish tool again, we're gonna set the first point in there, go around the second, make our triangle, bring it up to the hook, and do a couple wraps. 5 or 6 should do. I'm going to do that twice because there's no such thing as being too secure. With these things, we're not tying competition dry flies. We need durable nymphs that are going to catch multiple fish and survive the season and get us into steelhead season too. So we are going to be as durable as possible. So now that we have our fly here, we're going to grab the material and our household scissors, and we're going to snip across about a hook gap width straight across. I see here that I have some strands of material here that are sticking out further than the rest, so I'm just going to give this a quick little trim. And this is hard to see because I don't have a good background behind my fly there, but there we go. As you can see, we got like a half circle right now. The next step, and it's really simple, is just to push all that material down, and there we go. Now we have a spherical looking egg pattern with a blood dot in the middle and a bead head to give it some shine and some weight balance as well. So I do have some more errant hairs here. I'm going to snip. Just to be good and perfect there. Right, there we go. That looks better. All right. Throw it in the done pile. Okay, that was the second variation of it. Now we're going to do a third variation in which I go full crazy with the silly legs toy that I have in the materials list here. Need a drink quick. All right. So our next fly, we gotta get another hook. Kamikatsu octopus. Heard about it by now. My video on this has a fair amount of views, but if you haven't seen it, if you aren't one of those people that have seen it, check it out on the channel. It's got great information on why I like these and exactly why you should use them for salmon season. Or whatever season you want. But they're pretty good for salmon eggs in terms of shape. Alright, I'll do a better job this time of showing you. I'll try to anyway. So we got our bead. It's got 2 different, and if I grab it with these pliers, you'll be able to see. It's got 2 different ends on it. So I'm looking at my screen here. That's the thin end, and then it's got a thicker end there. I don't know how easy that is to see. but we're going to put the smaller diameter end in our hook and fish that around. So the thinner diameter should be against the eye of the hook when we fish it all the way through there. All right, we're going to put that in our tying vise. Now, this time we're going to use a little bit more of our lead-free wire. We're going to use probably closer to 2 inches of it. We're really going to weigh this sucker down. So we're just going to start making wraps around the shank of the hook. We're all the way back towards the bend of the hook now. Just to give us some room, we'll have freedom of maneuver with this thing to slide it up and down. Make sure you get both ends and wrap it completely. Once you get mostly done, just squeeze them together a little bit, and then the two ends are going to stick out a little bit. It's really important here to roll it around so you can get a better visual and really cinch those down flat against the shank. And we're going to shove it up right into the bead. Another reason why it's important to have the larger diameter towards the back of the hook so we can actually shove that in there. This thing is going to sink straight to the bottom. It's a lot of weight on there. It doesn't seem like it, but we just tripled or quadrupled the weight of this hook with 2 pieces of material, the beads and the lead-free wire. So next, we're actually going to take this off the vise. Well, first we'll get our silly legs. So this is our next material. You can find this at any toy store or Dollar Tree or whatever. But my kids like to play with these, but we're going to use it for fly tying materials. So I'm just going to cut one of these legs right off the ball here and put that away. So all I got here is a little silly leg, which we're going to use. This pattern looks crazy, like I said, but it catches fish. I've used it for steelhead season. I've used it for salmon season, and they're just kind of fun to use because you just think to yourself that it's impossible to catch a fish like this, but it's not. So I'm just putting this through just like you would like a worm, a jig worm on like a bass rig. And I'm just going to fish that through and bring it up the back of the hook just until it kind of sits straight off the back there. We're going to put that in the vise, and then we're going to get some glue to kind of secure that down a little bit more. So we're using head cement. You can use whatever glue you want, but head cement is just pretty much like super glue essentially. I'm going to use the bodkin now. This is my throwaway bodkin to dip in the head cement here, and then I'm going to just apply that a generous amount to the front and the back of this silly leg tail. Make sure you get underneath the shank of the hook and on top of it, and if you can, just get the sides too. So that'll just help lock down this this tail, which is a salmon egg tail. Don't know how it works, why it works, but it does. This is the third variation of the single egg salmon fly that we tied tonight. So it's just giving us more variety in our fly box, which is awesome. You always have to have variety. While that dries a little bit, we're going to do a quick jam knot up by the we're actually going to do it around the shank of the hook instead of on top of our lead wire. Jam knot, we're just putting a piece of thread on it and then wrapping around that thread. That, surprisingly enough, that holds everything up here. If you are not a fly tyer, the jam knot holds everything together. So once we got it on there, we're just going to build a little thread base at the bottom of our wire, and then we're going to start working into the wire to secure it down. I'm going to go up to the front and then back. I do want to get full coverage of the wire because the bottom of this fly does sometimes get exposed since you're making like a semicircle with your egg pattern. So I do want to go all the way, cover all the silver of our wire from front to back. And then we're also going to build a ramp down to the base of our tail, just like this. So if you have any questions, please stop me. I'll pause to answer any questions. But all right, we got a pretty uniform shape now covering the salmon fly there, and we're gonna end in about the middle of our thread there, the middle of the orange portion here. So next, we're just gonna tie, just like we did with the other ones, we're gonna tie the actual egg portion of it. So we're gonna get 1.5 inches of our glow bug yarn. This is Oregon cheese colored, which is a great color to use on the Salmon River and other rivers. Great for steelhead, brown trout, rainbow trout. I don't think I've ever caught a brook trout on it, but that's because I'm usually using much smaller eggs for brookies. Or not eggs, but flies. All right, we cut our micro yarn now, same length, about 1.5 inches. We lay that on top of our other material, and we're going to fold that in half over top of our thread. Then we're going to make a loop around our tie-in point, pull this to vertical, and then cinch it down. You do have to put quite a bit of pressure on this, but just use your judgment because you don't want to pull the hook out of the vise and you don't want to pull so hard that your thread snaps either. So use judgment here. Just made a few figure 8 wraps around the shank of the hook. Now I'm going to go around the material only 2 times before saving our work and doing some more figure 8s, and then doing the same process, so maybe once this time, and maybe just one more. Ought to do the trick. So around our material and around the shank of the hook. All right, we're good there. Now we are going to finish up this fly with the whip finish tool, putting the first notch there we're going to use right there. And then we're going to go around the second notch, make a triangle, and rotate that around the shank of the hook 5 or 6 times. Pull it out there and tighten the knot. We're going to do the same thing once again, 5 or 6 times. Right now we can snip this up close because it's secured now, and that knot's not going anywhere. We're going to grab all of our material now, minus the tail, of course. Pull it straight up, just like our other ones. And give it a snip about... I'm doing a little less than a hook gap here. Just because of the amount of material I have. So it's situationally dependent. But there we got a nice semicircle. Let me just inspect it quick. Yeah, that'll be good. I don't think I have to trim any of that off. Okay. Then we're just gonna fold this down, push it all down and back. I want to kind of expose the bead a little bit, but not completely. It just gives it a little flash in the water, and the large advantage is the sinking of the tungsten bead. So there's our fly. So it looks a little crazy, right? But it's got this little tail. It's very pliable, so to speak. It's very jiggly and stretchy. So if they tear this up, it's too easy, just rip it off, and then you got a regular salmon egg. But if not, this thing looks crazy, drifting in the water. So here's our finished product for this one. Get a better angle there. So this is our salmon egg fly, and it is a little funky looking, but it'll get the job done for sure. So now I got 3 different variations of that on the same size hook. So like I said, when you're building out your fly box, you want to have multiple sizes, colors, and shapes. And by shapes, I mean additions that you're adding to it, like beads, or the tail for that matter. So I got 3 size 4 gamakatsu hooks in that color. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep using these size 4 hooks, and I'm going to do a different color set. So just going to move right on to the next one. I'll go back to the variation number 1 that we did, the first one, where it's just a plain salmon egg with no bead, no tail, nothing crazy. It's just a plain old salmon egg on a regular gamakatsu hook. So we got our hook and our vise there. We're going to do a jam knot starting 1 eye width behind the eye of the hook. The eye width is this width right here, from here to here. So on the outside circumference or diameter of your circle of the eye, that's the dimension I'm talking about here. Do a quick jam knot, get a couple wraps, snip it off, discard it. All right, and in the middle of that we just tied on, we're gonna prepare our tie-in point for this. Now, like I said, we're gonna get a different color. I'm gonna go with orange for the main part. And this one is definitely not as natural of a color as the last one. But sometimes on those overcast days, or just days that you're not having any luck, you got to switch it up. So I like to put orange on as my secondary option. And when I do orange, I'm going to do a red colored hotspot, not pink. The pink doesn't really do well with orange. You want something that's darker in color, just so you can differentiate that yolk. So I don't have any other micro glow bugs materials. So what I'm doing here is actually using the full width material, and then I'm splitting it into segments. So I got some red here that I just split into a smaller section. It's about, I'd probably say about 1/5 of the width of the actual material that I pulled it off of. And I'm just going to lay that on top of our orange piece, just like this. That's going to be our contrast here on this one. We're going to fold that in half over top of our thread. I'm going to keep the orange thread here. I know it doesn't stick out very well when I'm using orange material, but I'm going to keep it anyway. We folded it in half now. We're going to make 1 loop around our material before pulling it up and then cinching that down, giving it a little bit of force. Just giving it a little tug to make sure it's down and secure. Doing some figure 8 wraps all the way around the shank on each side of the material before going 360 coverage around the actual orange, and then saving our work by going back to the figure 8s. And do that a couple times until we feel confident that it ain't going nowhere, which I think 1 more ought to be good. Right. Alright, that's good to go now. We are gonna whip finish it and call it a fly. Going in our first point of the whip finish tool, making a triangle, and then doing 5 or 6 wraps. Pull your tool out and cinch the knot, and then do it again. All right, snip that free, and we're almost done with this one. So grab the material, just like we just tied, because we folded it. It actually is split like in 2 pieces like that, but all we do is pull it straight up again, just like we had it when we folded it around the thread. We're gonna give it a little trim here, and when we do that, it'll flare out to a semicircle. Size does matter here on the salmon river, so I like to keep it about the same size as a 10 or 12 millimeter bead that you would find like steelhead fishing. But I'll also go down to like size 8, like 8 millimeters. So we're just pushing the semicircle down now and making it more of a full circle. You don't get full coverage, but when they get wet, they do fan out and it looks pretty good. All right, we got our blood spot here, our yolk. Then we got, like I said, mostly full coverage. You don't get full coverage there, but it's pretty close. All right, that's another one down. So we're gonna do the same color scheme, but we're going to use a different method. Like this time we're gonna have a bead and some wire. We're gonna expand on the type we're doing here. So let's get our hook first. Let's not get ahead of ourselves with the material. Getting another Gamakatsu octopus hook. And if this all sounds redundant, I don't know who's watching out there, but if it's all getting a little redundant, let me know what topic you want to cover, because I can talk about anything you want, preferably about salmon fishing. I'll talk about my experience up here last year, or in general. If you're watching off my Facebook page, you know that I'm from Pennsylvania, most likely. Originally, I love fly fishing the small streams in PA, but now I live up here in New York. So, all right, we got ourselves a little tungsten bead in here. We're gonna put the hook through the smaller end and fish it up through all the way up to the eye of the hook, and then secure it in the vise. You gotta make sure these are tight, because if you don't have this tight in your vise, it could fling off and hurt someone or yourself. So try to be safe out there. But yeah, this is the first time I did a live stream for this salmon season. I did a couple in the winter for ice fishing, which was fun, but I want to start doing some more salmon ones and just start tying flies with people, get a group going, get a community. So we got our 0.020 lead-free wire, about an inch and a half at most. Gonna make some wraps around the hook shank here, and then we're gonna push it underneath the opening of our bead head to give this thing a lot of extra weight. Like I said, it's probably anywhere from doubling its weight to quadrupling its weight with these 2 things on there. Which really helps it sink down to the bottom of the salmon river or wherever you're fishing. Salmon River has heavy flows. So any river that has heavy flow and then you struggle to get down to the bottom, this will definitely help you. So there's two ways to get down to the bottom faster. One is put more weight on your fly. The next way is to thin out your fly to have a thinner profile. Because we're tying salmon eggs, we can't really have a thin profile. That defeats the purpose of our fly. But like, say zebra midges, for example, those things sink to the bottom without any weight because they're so thin that there's no water resistance in when they sink to the ground. So that's the reasoning behind that. Now that we got our weight pushed up there, we're going to do a jam knot right behind it. Do a couple wraps around the shank here. We got our thread separated, but we'll bring it back together. So we are going to do that knot. Dropped my thread there on the keyboard. Not good. I'm just going to go around our wire here. And where we tied behind the wire, we're going to build a little ramp up so it's got a smooth transition to the wire. Doesn't take long to do with this 140 denier UTC Ultra thread. And then just give our wire full coverage of the material. Or close to it. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to have a lot of these in our box, and we're going to lose a lot of these to bottom. We're going to lose them on fish. We're going to lose them on twigs, on trees. Who knows, but this is why we have a lot of these in our box, because we're going to lose them, and yeah, we're just going to have strength in numbers. So we got our hook there. We're going to get some more UV protected yarn here, about 1.5 inches, and the full thickness of it. We're using orange and red right now. So we got our red, orange, we got our red cut out from last time. I got some spare. And we're just gonna lay the red on top here. Fold it around at the midway point. And tie it up here. Do a full loop. Pull it up. Cinch it down. Just like that. Figure eights around the material. And then full loops around the material. Back to figure eights. Yeah, man, what's up? What's your question, Don? DA Don. Yeah, I'll take a little pause here. What's up, man? What question you got? About reeling techniques? So there's probably going to be a little bit of delay here, but I will field your question and keep tying here. We'll keep tying. But I assume that you're talking about proper reeling technique with salmon. If not, just let me know. How long do you have before it happens? Finishing. Are you talking about like me tying this here, or the stream, or I'm not sure. You'd have to clarify. I'm sorry. If you have a question, you can go ahead and ask it, and I'll take a break because I've been tying these for 45 minutes now. I'm starting to fill up the box here pretty good with hooks, so I can take a break answer any questions. It doesn't have to be just about what I'm tying here. But you mentioned a question about reeling. I assume like you're talking about the fishing reel. If not, just let me know. But I see your comments. Thank you for joining in. And I'll keep tying here until I see your question or understand it at least. So we just finished up doing all of our loops around our thing, our salmon egg shank. So we're left with the whip finish, and we're gonna do 5 or 6 turns of that twice. I always do it twice. I don't know if it's a superstition thing or if it actually helps, but I do it twice. And Don's got a question out there. We're waiting to see what his question is to hopefully help him out. So whenever you're ready to ask a question, Don, just let it fire, man. All right, we're gonna pull up on our material here and give ourselves a snip across there at about 4 to 6 millimeters, which gives us a 8 to 12 millimeter bead size, just like this. So this one we got the bead head on. This is what I would call variation 2 of tonight's stream. And with variation 2, we are done with that. Check it out. Good little fly here. Perfect for the Salmon River in Pulaski, New York. And we're dropping it in the box. Gonna get another size 4 hook. This is gonna be the last. Oh, this is size 2. Where's my size 4s? Why do I even have size 2s here? That one wasn't a size 2, was it? No, that was 4. Sorry. Size 4. Now we got our size 4 hooks. And we are going to tie our final one before going into some size 6s. And we'll probably do them in red since we've been doing all black hooks tonight. We'll do some red size 6s next. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. But, all right, first here we got to get our bead on. I do like to tie these with beads. This variation anyway. I like to put beads and weight on it because the tail adds a little bit of surface friction, and we mitigate that by just adding some more weight. So we got a bead here and our hook. It's gonna go from small end first through the bead. Oh, but just about dropped it. Sometimes these beads can be a little finicky. Like right now, I can't get it to go around the bend of the hook here, or it might be caught on the barb. Barb of the hook. So what you can do is grab it with your pliers, and then that kind of helps you just force it through a little better. Gives you a little more fidelity on actually doing this. That did not work. All right, that was a little dangerous there. So I just lost my bead, and I also lost a little bit of the tip of my hook. So that's a no-go on that one. We're not going to use we're not going to use that. Luckily, I didn't get anything in my eye. But I'm going to have to look for that later, actually. There it is. I just found the bead. Alright, that was strange and has never happened to me before. But luckily it happened live, right? That's why we're live. No takebacks here. Alright, maybe this one will work a little easier. Yeah, look at that. Slid right on there. No problems. Okay, before we put this in the vise, we're going to get another one of these balls here. Let me adjust the camera. I bumped it there, sorry. Let's see if that works. Still don't quite understand Don's question here. If anyone can help me out. How long do you have before it happens finishing? I don't know what that means, unfortunately. So now we got our silly legs from the dollar store toy that I got. I got like 10 colors of these for $1 or $2. So I'm just matching the color closest to the actual color I'm tying my main material. And I'm just snipping off one of these legs. And we got our tail. There we go. We're going to put that on our hook. I'm going to poke through the larger end of the material here and fish it through just like you would a worm on a bass jig. Just going to send it through about 1/8 of an inch and feed it through here until it kind of goes along naturally with the bend of the hook. Now we can secure it again. And get some of our lead-free wire in 0.020 thickness. Unfortunately, I think we may have lost Don. Don, if you're out there, please reiterate your question and ask it in a different manner, because I don't quite understand what you're asking. Before we do this, I'm going to add the glue. Change the angle of this because it's sticking upward a little bit. There we go. I'm going to get the glue now, our head cement, and just add a little bit around the front and back of our tail on the bottom side and the top side, just to really secure it in here and along the sides if we can. So just add a little bit there. A little bit goes a long way in making this a little more durable. So while that dries, we're gonna put our wire on, and careful not to move our tail because I don't want to lose that progress that we just made gluing it. Might actually give it a second to dry. So normally I would give this a little more time to dry, but feeling a little impatient right now. And we've been going for an hour now. I'll probably tie a few more and then call it a night. Unless we get a bunch of questions in here that I can answer intelligently or unintelligently, depending on the question. Let's see, while we wait for that, I'm just pulling up my other screen here a second. See if all right. We'll go. Just taking a quick pause here. So what's really unfortunate about the stream tonight is that I had a bunch of technical issues right before the stream. My computer was not recognizing my camera or anything. I restarted it, of course, rebooted my camera, and nothing was working. And my stream settings were off. It was a nightmare. But we're up and running now. All right, so we got our wire. We got it pushed underneath our bead. We're gonna put our thread on now. So I had to remake, or I completely had to do a different stream URL or link. So the link that I've been sharing for a week now is no longer valid. So I had to send out a last minute thing, which wasn't even last minute. It was technically minutes after I was supposed to start the stream, to change the link. And yeah, I like to be prepared, and that was not me being prepared. Although I've done everything I could to be prepared for this stream. My computer and the interwebs here did not want me to be prepared, I guess. So it's all good. We recovered, we made a new one. I know for a fact that this did not get out to as many people as I had reached out to for the original link. So what we did here now is we got our thread wraps. Just doing some more thread wraps to even out this stem here. And we are good to go. So we're going to tie on another 1.5 inch segment of our yarn. This is my random bag. Got a bunch of random colors in here. And we are gonna get a little bit of our red yarn as well. Got to split some more of this apart. And spin that up to just get it nice and tight. And lay that on top of our thread like that, our other material. Fold it over and give it a solid wrap here. Cinching it straight down on top of the hook. We're doing figure 8 wraps, followed by circular wraps in the horizontal plane. Repeating that 2 or 3 times at least to make sure that we are very secure, which I believe we are. Now we got our whip finish tool, and we're going to finish it up here with a quick finish. 5 or 6 turns with the whip finish. Doing that twice. If you're watching this post stream, then at this point, I'm sure that you have caught on to how to tie these. And if not, I sincerely apologize. That would be on me. I'm not going in enough detail, let me know. And I'll explain anything a little further. Okay, good to go there. I'm gonna pull up on everything. Big clump here. The importance of this being centered on our hook is that when we let go, it's going to cover this tail and the front of the hook too, up to the bead. So that's why we center it there. And give it an even trim. All right, spread that out, make it a full circle versus a semicircle. Just like this. And you got yourself a little nice salmon egg fly there. Perfect. That's a good one. I like that one. Something about this color scheme makes me feel good. So pretty cool. If you have jig hooks that are strong for salmon too, this would be perfect for a jig. Get it to ride upside down like that. Alright, so we got a couple of those. Now we got six size 4s in 2 different colors and 3 different variations. And then we got 6 we got 6 size 8s as well in there that I tied the other night. But now we're going to do some size 6s in the middle, and we're going to do them in red. So Gamakatsu hooks come in black and red in the octopus ones. So we're going to do a size 6 here in red, since everything else we've tied tonight has been in black. So we're going to do that. Okay. And this one, our first variation is just the standard no bead, no wire, it's just straight hook and glow bug material. We're gonna go back to our original, our favorite color here, the Oregon cheese color of glow bug yarn. Wow. Need a drink. That's good. Okay, glow bug yarn. Cutting an 1.5 ish off there. And then you're gonna going back to, actually, you know what, let's change it up. Let's do, how does red look against this? I think it looks a little too strong on the red. The orange, on the other hand, looks pretty good. And this is a background, so I'm gonna grab some orange this time instead of our micro pink cotton candy. We're gonna go with an orange blood spot with this one. I think that'll look pretty good. We'll do 3 or so in orange, and then maybe the next kind we'll do in a little different of a color. All right, I think we're having some audio issues here. Just checking our audio. Seems to be okay, but I'm not quite sure. Let's see, do a little test here. Just doing an audio test here. Test, test, test. All right. Good with the test. We're going to do our jam knot a full eye length behind the hook. Maybe an eye and a half on these smaller hooks. Yeah, I'm going to go eye and a half on these smaller ones. Size 6 these are. Did our jam knot. Now we're going to just meet in the middle of that jam knot a little bit there. We did have a little bit of audio issues there. Got the notification on my screen here. But it's gone now, so that should be good. Apologize if anyone missed anything, let me know. Dropping tools. Okay, so we got our thread here. The orange is a little hard to see in the lighting there, but you can kind of see it. I'm going to fold that over top of our UTC 140 denier orange thread. We're going to secure this right on top of the shank of the hook. And then, just like all the other ones, we're doing figure 8 wraps around, followed by horizontal wraps around the material only above the shank, and then more figure 8 hooks, or loops, wraps, whatever you want to call it. Okay, we're secure. Quick whip finish here. Five or 6 turns. Repeated twice. Or repeated once, I should say. For a total of 2 times around. And snipped off. Now, to increase the durability of these flies, you can always add a thin layer of head cement to the bottom of it, which is really good. These flies are pretty durable as is, just because of the materials we're choosing to use. But if you do that, it'll just increase the lifespan of it just a little bit longer. So here we used a little bit, we went a little thinner on the egg yolk hotspot. So there's just a little tiny dot, but it's just subtle enough that I kind of like it. And there's our next one. With the smaller hooks, I do go a little bit smaller on the sizes of the eggs here. Just use your judgment, and you can use whatever size you want. So long as it doesn't exceed the regulations here in the state of New York. Anyway, I digress. All right, now we got a variation of the same pattern. So we're going to go back to size 6, Gamakatsu octopus. Pick ourselves a sharp little hook out here. Get ourselves a tungsten bead. Tungsten, brass, any of the standard beads will work. Color bead. I only have gold in these tungsten ones, so that's why I'm using them. But black would work, silver would work. Really any color you'd like. I personally like gold, which is why I have a larger supply of gold than all my other ones. But all the colors will work. Just look at that good contrast on the gold and red. I like that a lot. So we went small side first through the eye of the, or the hook through the eye of the bead. Small side first. And secured it on here, followed by our lead-free wire 0.020. Gonna get 3/4 of an inch to an inch on this. You're not going to need a lot because the diameter of this hook is a little thinner than the size 4, so we don't need more to get the same amount of coverage and weight distribution. So we're just making a couple wraps with our wire. This stuff is really pliable, so it's easy to mold, and you can actually break it off really easy with your fingers just by spinning it around, helicoptering it away. The hard part is getting it to go underneath the bead here. That's the most difficult part. And making sure the tail end of it is also secured, because it could have a sharp point and it could break your thread if you're not careful. So just be careful and you'll be fine. Did our jam knot right behind our wire. And we're going to do this just like this. If you don't catch the stream, my next video in the 15-week salmon series that I've been doing, we're on week 9 already, so the season is very, very closely going to be at our doorsteps. There has already been multiple reports of salmon being caught, although I believe all those fish are way too early right now. All the fish that pushed into the Salmon River already are dead. It's just too early. The water temps are too high. There's not enough oxygen flowing through the water until they cool off a little bit. All right. We got our thread wraps covering our wire now, as you can see. So we're going to get another piece of Oregon cheese glow bug yarn. And some orange yolk. I'm going to fold that in half over top of our thread and make a full wrap around the shank of the hook loosely. Pull this up top and pull it straight down. So it sits nice and firm on top of this. Making some figure-8 loops, followed by horizontal wraps around the material only. And we're good to go there. All right. Just gonna whip finish this bad boy. So next week, I'm going to try the live stream again. I guess I'm going to have to run more tests this time, because I did test it on a private stream 2 days ago and everything was perfectly fine. And then my YouTube account changed all the settings on me. So yay, that's fun. But I'm going to try another live stream. I'm going to cover a different egg pattern that I like to use that has multiple eggs built into it, and not just one here, so it kind of imitates like an egg sac from like a skein rig that you use. I will try another live stream and field any questions anyone has. Hopefully the link works this time for me, so I don't have to make last-minute decisions and get people upset or have them miss the stream. So there, we didn't cut it perfectly. So you see this big strand here. I'm just going to try to line it up with the rest of it here and cut that free. Just because we do want a good spherical shape. So it's still not perfect, which it doesn't have to be perfect by any means. My flies are not perfect. A lot of you can tie better than I can. But these flies work, and that's all that matters, and I enjoy doing it, so it's fun. Okay. Just make our semicircle a near circle now. And good to go. This one looks a little wonky. I'm not gonna lie. This one might be a throwaway. But we're gonna throw it in the box anyway. You never know. In a pinch, this thing could catch fish for sure. But there we go. Not too bad. All right, we got one more of this color scheme, at least, and this one we're using our silly legs here. Just gonna cut one of these things off. I didn't know what to call this, so I just called it silly legs, but I have no idea what they're actually called. You just can get them at any dollar store. So I'm curious to see how these look on a red hook. I don't know if I have any in my box right now on a red hook. We got our Gamakatsu size 6 octopus red hooks. These are about $3 to $5 depending on where you buy them from, which is very affordable when it comes to hooks. We're picking our tungsten bead now. These are all the same size, so there's not really much of a selection process. Just get your finger in there and get one. And this is going to be our last hook of the night. So if you have any questions, now would be the time to ask, because we are going to wrap this up in the next 5 to 10 minutes. It'll put us at about an hour 45. Pretty good length for the stream. We'll get more questions eventually. But we're out here for fun anyway, so we got our bead on our hook. Oh, already forgot a step. Before we put it in the vise, we gotta attach our tail, just like doing a bass rig. On like a jig hook, we're just gonna fish that through and have it go straight back the shank of the hook as straight as possible. This time I didn't like doing the wire after the glue. I'm gonna do the wire first and then glue it. See if that works a little better. So here, with the size 4s, we grabbed about 1 3/4 to 2 inches. Now for this, we're going to grab probably 1 to 1.5 inches of wire to weigh this thing down with its increased surface tension and water tension. We want to sink this, give it a little better chance of sinking to the bottom. If your tail gets in the way, you can kind of push it back, as long as you push it back up to the front when you're done. But right now we're just making sure that our wire is secured and underneath our bead, inside our bead. So there's that. Like I said, it's a little funky looking, but it catches fish. That's all that matters, right? So we got our wire on there, we got our tail on there, we got our bead on there. We're gonna do our jam knot to get our thread on there now. We got a little bit of a split thread situation here, so let's get that back together. There we go. Finish our jam knot by snipping this here. Now we really got to secure this this tail with some head cement. So this is the brand of head cement we're using. Any head cement will work, or UV cure or UV resin will also work. Just gonna use our bodkin here. Get a little bit, apply it to the front and rear of our tail to give it a little bit more durability, because there's no thread that holds this tail down. It's just this glue and the friction against the hook. So we're gonna let that dry a little bit here. Not a long time. It doesn't take that long to dry. It is strong though. I can smell it. It's pretty potent sometimes if you get a lot of it. So we are gonna let that dry a little bit on our tail to lock it in and get it in place. And then we are going to start covering our 0.020 thread with some more thread wraps. When I said thread, I meant wire. So I don't like seeing any of the silver, because if I can see it, the fish can see it. So we're picky with our flies. They're not perfect, but we try to make them as good as we can. Try to put ourselves in the mind of a fish here and make it as appetizing as possible, right? All right, now we're in the middle of our wraps there. We're gonna get another strand of our glow bug yarn in Oregon cheese color. About an inch is all you need. Inch to inch and a half. Nothing crazy here. And then we're gonna get our differentiating yolk color, which in this case is gonna be orange. Last set of hooks we did Oregon cheese and cotton candy colors. This time we're doing just Oregon cheese and orange. And it gets us a pretty good contrast, which is hard to see in this camera because of the bright light, but gets us a good contrast. So we're going to fold that in half over top of our thread. And make a loose wrap around the top of the shank. Flip that over and pull it so it sits right on top. We're giving it a solid tug and some securing wraps. Perfect. We're going to do some horizontal wraps around just the material, not the actual hook, before going back to those hook wraps in the figure 8 pattern. We're going to do that a couple times here. Make sure this thing is locked down tight. Okay, that ain't going nowhere. All right, we're going to whip finish this thing now. And then we'll trim our egg into a more reasonable shape here. 5 or 6 turn whip finish. Done twice. Really secures it. Almost porked that. Trim our thread there. Now we just got this glob that we're going to trim up into a nice egg shape. So to get the nice round shape, you got to grab everything in a good pinch and pull it tight while you're snipping this off. That'll help flare it out. And once again, we missed a little bit of a strand there. There we go. Got a nice semicircle here. And we are going to make it a full circle. So this one looks a little crazy, but it'll work. I like it. Got the red hook, the yellow body, the greenish yellow tail, a gold bead, orange blood spot, orange thread. This thing's gonna catch some fish. Look at that thing. Thing's nice. All right, and yeah, and that's fun. All right, so pending any questions in the next few seconds here, I'm gonna call it a stream and wrap it up until the next time. We're gonna cover a different egg pattern, which is the it's a multiple egg on one hook fly pattern. I don't know what name it's got for the official name of it, but it works for me. And I'll show you all how to tie that. There's less variations with it because there's no tail on it or nothing like that. There's just a non-weighted and a weighted version. I prefer the weighted version on this one, and the next one as well. So I'll go over those two variations and we'll tie, I don't know, how many did we tie tonight? We did 9 tonight. Yeah. Or no, we did 15 flies tonight, I think. I can't math right now, but we'll do a good amount and then take any questions anyone has about the process or about fishing in general. So if you did swing by tonight, I appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. Sorry, Don, I couldn't quite understand your question. So if you do have a better way to clarify it, just let me know in one of my videos. You can drop a comment and I'll get back to you. I just don't know what you're trying to ask here. And then we lost you for a little bit. So like I said, I appreciate everyone coming in. And hopefully I don't have any stream issues next time. And I can actually get you guys the correct link on time ahead of time rather than last minute like today. Just had some extreme technical issues. So thanks for joining in, and I will see you next time. See ya.